Welcome, welcome. I'm Tatami. This is my diary, and today, beloved, we are only here out of sheer force of will. I started trying to make this video earlier this afternoon when the lighting was perfect and the kids were watching a show and all these things were aligning and things just kept happening. The kids needed me, my husband needed me, life needed me. And so I'm only here because I do think that this is something that should be discussed. And people may need to actually see somebody who is steadfast in their beliefs. I'm not sure. All I know is that I keep getting weird commentary, very undemocratic and stupid commentary, mostly from Democrats, saying things like, if you vote green, it's a vote for Trump, even though a vote for Trump is a vote for Trump. But okay, and imagine chastising green voters over every type of voter. Like, okay. And then also things like, if you vote third party, you might as well not vote at all. Honey, let me be the first to say these same people will chastise you for not voting at all. So today we are going to go over Howie Hawkins' plan as it is written on his site, which will probably take a long time because he is a wordy individual and a very highly educated individual. So it is fun to hear him speak if you know what he's talking about, you know. Yeah, I'm giving my vote to Hawk and Walk 2020. And no, people are not going to dissuade me from that. And I hope to encourage you to, in fact, perhaps vote for them. They are pro reparations. They are pro Green New Deal. They are pro Medicare for all. The list kind of goes on. They check all the boxes for what the country and, in fact, the planet needs. So I'm not going to entertain bullshit. I'm just going to hop right into it. So my first commentary, excuse my cracked screen, if you can see that. I went to use my tablet, but then my other tablet. I got a new one for my birthday. That's what we're using here. But I meant to use my other one to show you their site and how good it looks on the tablet and computer. But sadly, it died, and so I just have this cracked ass screen to show you. But it still looks decent on mobile, and this is a big thing because if you're somebody who has ever tried to go green, their sites all look like they were made in 2003 and have never been updated and are often impossible to navigate or really understand where you are in the site, which is kind of a huge downer here in 2020 where everyone's impulse to look up something that they don't know much about is to start with the internet. So you really have to start with the internet. And I'm proud that he found whoever to make sure this site looked decent and is easy to navigate. Simple, very easy, and translated to Spanish. Thank you. Simple. We're going to go straight to the platform summary where he has a lot of different ideas. Each one, some of them kind of overlap with each other, but that's because some people may go straight to the thing that they care most about. So once I discuss something, I'll just let it go. If I repeat it or if I see it, I may skip it. But feel free to go to his site and look through these things yourself, and also to go to his YouTube page and listen to him speak about these things. Some people don't like how he talks because they're used to Bernie and other types of people who speak. And I'll be real, Howie's got a different cadence, but once you get into what he's talking about, I do think you can get into what he's talking about. And further, I would rather vote for somebody policy-wise who I think will silently do the right thing, even if he can't articulate himself the best way, than somebody, like Trump, who's super articulate and makes not a goddamn lick of sense when he speaks, but you better believe he can speak for the rest of the hour. He will talk and talk and talk. But, best believe he ain't saying nothing. So let's get right into it because Howie, when he talks, he says something. And Angela, my girl Angela, okay, Honey, when she talks also, she's got definitely the charisma of them too. And I think that they're just a really good match. It's like he's got a lot of intellect, a lot of knowledge. He was a Marine in the Vietnam War, I believe. So Howie's got just a lot of experience as an American. And from what he's seen, he understands that progressive policies are what is necessary. And Angela brings a lot of the just fight. She brings a lot of the understanding of the plight, especially from that person of color perspective, minority perspective. She's a woman. She's an unambiguous Black woman. She's older too. She has grandkids. So the two of them just bring such wisdom and grace that has sorely been missing. And I'll just say, I would not mind either of them in the White House. I just wouldn't. I think that they both have such powerful things to offer. With that said, let's get into the first part of their platform summary. Here we have Howie. The COVID-19 measures for the duration of the crisis. So what I love, first thing, first point, Howie out here, Medicare for all. COVID demands no less, at least for the duration of COVID, at least very minimally least for the disease of COVID. We need to have that covered. It's inexcusable that we have this pandemic where people have been asked to stay home, which all reasonable countries asked to do. All countries who could afford it, all countries who understood it could ask to do. We have this situation where people don't have health care. We have this situation where people are on the verge of eviction because they can't afford it, and their landlords, go figure, we're also living paycheck to paycheck somehow. I don't understand the ones who have apartment complexes. Like, how did you get into debt overcharging for these apartments here in California? But I digress. The point is that it's this chain of people using people here in this capitalist system. So we have a situation where people just can't pay. And yet people are being saddled with these thousands, tens of thousands. Did not somebody get over $1 million in a bill who was old, so they're high risk, so you got to pay more? Like, imagine just saddling an old person with a bill knowing that they're probably going to die in a few years and their family is going to be saddled with that excessive bill. Meanwhile, tax funded like labs and research facilities are finding the cures to these diseases, but they're acting like we're crazy for not wanting, after our tax dollars funded cures and understanding of diseases, we're crazy for wanting them to not charge us up the ass. You know what I'm saying? Y'all could charge $3, but you're out here charging thousands. It's disgusting. People should not have to pay for that. So after all that talk, like 2 minutes on the first point, let's continue. Defense Production Act to rapidly plan the production and distribution of medical supplies, universal tests, contact trace, quarantine program, safely reopen the economy, right? They're willing to sacrifice us all, have us die to just go out there and maybe make money and maybe come back and kill our whole family. All the other countries that have paid all these taxes into their government to protect them during a natural disaster, such as a hurricane, a tornado, flooding, pandemic, those countries have the understanding that their hospitals are going to get what they need, because that's part of the issue, right? People are showing up, and in Texas, they're deciding who can come in and get a bed and who needs to be sent home to die. I swear to God, if they sent me home to die, I'd be like, to my husband, I would be like, baby, we're taking a road trip. We need to go to a different state. Let's go to a different state and find a hospital that will accept us, because we are not going home. That is crazy. That is, send me an $8 million bill. I'll fucking ignore it. Defense Production Act to rapidly plan the distribution and production of medical supplies, universal tests, contact tracing, quarantine program, and safely reopen the economy. Oh, I just said that. Oops. The OSHA. OSHA was the next point. Okay. OSHA, temporary standard to provide enforceable PPE protection for workers. It's crazy to me that Trump has the entire government at his disposal, but the only form of government he found to use was the unlabeled federal enforcement officers in vans. What? You have OSHA. You have environmental protections. You have all these different random branches of government that you can like enforce to do all different sorts of things. You calls it war. There are wartime like protections he can call upon for companies to follow during these psycho times. He chose not to use those. He chose not to use OSHA. These are things he simply has, but he chose to protect Confederate statues faster than protecting people from COVID. We will continue. $2,000 a month to all adults over age 16 and $500 per child. So important. So important. Every other country did it. We need to have support. They want us working so we can pay for shit. They are confused out of their mind and don't understand. Are they naive? Do they just want us on the streets? It's hard to understand. But the fact of the matter is that what we've missed cannot be replaced unless it's actually replaced. We were already behind if we were living paycheck to paycheck. The idea that we would thusly owe thousands of dollars of rent, owe car payments, any other sort of payments that we have just piling up and somehow come out on no. But yet and still, like I said, Canada doesn't have to deal with this. France doesn't have to deal with this. The English, even though they keep up and downing on how they're dealing with the virus, they don't have to deal with this. That's us. We paid all this taxes for us to be chastised when we asked for some help during a fucking natural crisis. He talks about moratorium on evictions, foreclosures, utilities, shutoffs. All right, my family needed me, so I think we were on the moratorium on evictions, foreclosures, utility shutoffs, canceling rent, mortgage, utility payments. The government pays those bills. The federal pays those bills. And high income people pay taxes on this relief. Yes, sir, these people have been skipping taxes, putting their stuff every which way, and because the IRS is defunded, they're going after people like me for $500 to $1,000 instead of rich-ass people who are evading hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. It's just ridiculous. He also talks about loans to all businesses, hospitals, payroll, fixed overhead forgiven if all workers are kept on payroll. Yes. I also think that there should be like hero pay, essential worker pay. But that's another story. I do think that businesses should be getting loans, small businesses. No, did you notice when the PPP came out, the small business loans came out, it was all the rich people lined up front and center. Gimme. Poor people, I don't know what it is. We have been indoctrinated to like never accept a handout. Be too proud to accept a handout. Meanwhile, honey, the rich are chastising you for having a handout, and they are the first in line for a fucking handout. Gimme. And they will take the whole several million and leave you to the dust and let your business crash and then blame you somehow. Yeah. So, let's see, where are we? Sorry, I just accidentally scrolled into a different area of the... All right, he talked about suspending student loans with 0% interest. Federal universal rent control, aid to state and local governments so they can sufficiently keep essential services running. Necessary. That's a lot of why our personal states haven't done things, is because certain things are used to fund certain things. So just like property taxes to school. So it really is a huge decision to put moratoriums on certain things as a state. But as the federal government paying to the states, you'd think states would be higher priority than corporations. It's just disgusting. It's literally, you would think California would be before Google, or California would be before the Shake Shack, or, you know, insert state. I put literally, I'm not shitting you, I put South Dakota, Kentucky, any which state you name, I would put that before any person, any business, anything. The states are more important to me. The people who make up the states are more important to me. Making sure people in rural areas aren't suffering, making sure people in urban city areas are not suffering. These things are the most important to me. So this idea of like, uplift these companies that are just no, uplift small businesses made by the small people who make up each of these states. Meanwhile, they're not helping us, so CVS is running around, Rite Aid is running around. Oh, are there any locally owned pharmacists that I can steal their business from during the crisis? Walmart running around. You know what I'm saying? All these corporations running around. Who's the mom and pop shop that I can just buy up because they fucking can't handle it anymore, because they can't do it anymore, because they didn't get jack shit, because even though they were the first person on their computer to sign up for that small business loan, turns out all you had to do was be a rich ass motherfucker who called the bank the day before and was like, you gonna put aside some loan for me? And then the bank was like, holla if you hear me. And all these corrupt ass banks, even the ones who fake like they ain't hella corrupt, were out there passing out money to the hella rich, who they're like, but I can trust the hella rich because they're hella rich. Meanwhile, these loans were meant for small businesses. Imagine thinking small operates in the numbers of millions. Once you're in the millions, you're not small anymore. I'm sorry. You're not small anymore. You can barely call yourself medium unless you're like still a one person owned operation with under 100 employees. Like, I'm sorry. Who was out here determining the definition of small, and how didn't our government do it first? Let's continue. Let's just get through this first point. Like, my goodness. He said 42 trillion eco-socialist Green New Deal for economic recovery through a just transition to 100% clean energy by 2030. Y'all, thank you. Holla, yes. Howie, yes. Thank you. Finally, somebody just saying it like it is. There are so many things that people were saying was impossible. But it's yet and still, when it was the law, it was suddenly possible for you to do it. Please, let's just forget that windmills give you cancer, as Trump said. They don't. Wind energy is about as clean as you can get. Solar energy, I'm going to be honest, it's just better in a lot of ways than fossil fuels, gas. It just is what it is. I like, honestly, and it's not just cars driving. That's actually a pretty small percentage. We have to focus on like agriculture. We have to focus on cruise ships, airplanes, moving people towards, trains, fast, tracks. They have them in Europe. Very fast trains that go from here to here in a blink of an eye, practically. Not a blink of an eye, but you know what I'm saying. Way better than the obsolete garbage we have here that's called public transportation, because they just, long ago, Americans realized, whoever was at the front of these industries realized it was cheaper. It was better for them to have us all buy cars and just go on the roads than to just pay a train ticket for hundreds of people to be transported at once. That's the issue. Everything is run by fucking corporations. Finally, on this point, he says universal mail-in ballots for the 2020 general election. I'm with that. There's no evidence. There's no real evidence that we shouldn't be able to mail in that ballot. And I think that should be crucial and critical during a pandemic. If you do nothing else, let us go to the mail-in ballot option. It's disgusting the way they're trying to dismantle the USPS, delegitimize mail-in voting. Like, yet everybody was doing mail-in voting prior to all this. That's how I voted for Bernie in the primaries. Like, this is just ridiculous. Next point, eco-socialist Green New Deal. He says the public ownership in planning and energy, manufacturing, and transportation. I think that's important because if you'll note, there's pretty much one company that we all go to for our energy needs. And if you don't go to that company, you're going to companies working with that company because they own all the wiring going into everywhere in every which way. Fancy that. So public ownership for the next form of energy, I think, is right on schedule. We also have 0 to negative carbon emissions by 2030. I believe it's possible, and I believe even if it's not possible, us working to 100% clean emissions by then will help. Absolutely, especially as America, where everybody's just using way more than the planet can sustain. And I don't think we should be like, oh, China does so much. Like, how are we going to pollute for 100 years, then stop and be like, oh, but they're polluting? Isn't that so? Of course they're polluting. They're trying to catch up with our bullshit of abusing kids, and before that, enslaving people, and before that, you know what I'm saying? There's just so much crap into this that it's not about what other people do. It's about what you do. Have some goddamn integrity. Don't point to China. All right. Banning fracking and new fossil fuel infrastructure. Absolutely. Just stop. Just stop pretending like those things are viable. That's something we need to do. We need to keep investing. Just stop investing in it. Invest in something else. Invest in anything else. It's okay if we occasionally suffer. Keep in mind, PG&E makes us suffer all the time. They'll do blackouts when they feel like it's for the fires. Like, I guess you just don't have energy for the next 12 hours. They do it all the time. It's going to be okay if we have to be uncomfortable a little bit to save the planet, to make sure it's livable for the next generations. He also talks about no nukes. Very simple. Stop nuking shit, especially because we're always saying, like, there's overpopulation, there's not enough food, which isn't true. There's more food is thrown away than hungry people. But my point is like the bombs, I feel like a lot of Americans are so detached from what bombs actually do to the earth. Like, it destroys a place. You can't return there the next day and be like, where are my things? Like, it's gone. Consider it gone for this generation. Often bombing literally tears up the earth, tears up the infrastructure, tears up the community. It's not a livable place anymore. Every time a bomb is dropped somewhere, it's devastating. That's why I'm so against a lot of what Obama did, because it's just nasty when you really look into the logistics. And I hope you do look into the logistics, just the way that, looking into the logistics of a lot of forms of abuse turns people's mind. I hope this also turns your mind. It's abuse against the planet. It's abuse against the people who live there. It's abuse against other cultures. It's bullying, nasty behavior, and it absolutely ruins the environment and makes it unlivable. It's devastating beyond the deaths and the houses that break. It literally, like, grow something there. Grow something where we've dropped a bomb. And then now make that bomb a nuke. I love that he just said no nukes. Zero waste manufacturing and recycling, absolutely. It should start from the very top. It shouldn't just be us trying to reuse and recycle. It should start from the very top. There should be regulations, absolutely. Electrified rails, freight, intercity, high speed, and intracity trolleys. Yes, exactly what I was just saying. We need public transportation. If it's about also our use of personal transportation creating too much smog, etc., absolutely, we should have viable options to cut that down. Just full stop. Viable options to not make that as big of an issue. As it is, it's not a very viable option. People often will be like, what do you mean fruit is just too expensive? What you got to do is go to this store, go to that store. And it's like, okay, now add into that not having a car, living in a food desert, taking the bus somewhere, now cart all that food back with you on public transportation, walk from your bus back to the... it's not viable. We don't have enough bus schedules, we don't have enough train schedules, and we damn sure don't have trolleys unless you live in cities that were built back in the beginning before they started shutting down the transportation to encourage people to buy their own cars. Yeah, so there's very few cities in America with actual public transportation. Just saying. So I think it's so important. When you look at Europe, when you look at other places, they have that streamlined public transportation, and it absolutely cuts down on people buying cars and using them excessively when they have them. And it would also cut down on all those damn cars in San Jose lining the El Camino with the old grandmas sitting in front of them at the bus stop who can never afford them. Those dealerships would be shut down or made smaller and more sustainably. I guarantee it. It's disgusting how many cars are there, and you know damn well no one's ever going to buy all those cars. By the end of next year, when the new version comes out, they're going to send it to just either be to the dump, to get remelted, to get repurposed. It's all just money, money, money. It's disgusting. He also says heat pumps to heat and cool buildings, efficiency, I'm with it. Regenerative organic agriculture, parity pricing, supply, management for all agricultural commodities. Agriculture is a huge one, huge. Often they will shit talk California, like, you take too long of showers, you water your green grass. Meanwhile, the majority of the water usage is literally like almonds, like shit that's not even native here, but you brought it here, and then now you demand excess water because you're you, but then the rest of us have to take 2-minute showers to make up for it because we're always in a drought, and you're using all the extra underground reserves, which they don't even have to say how much they use of the underground reserves, y'all. Next, parity pricing, Civilian Conservation Corps of Forest, Wetland, Habitat Restoration. I love that idea of civilians being a part of this, of civilians forming, from the federal government being given permission to help preserve the planet, all of that. He has peace policies. He says first pledging to not to use nuclear weapons. I think that's actually very important, to be one of the people who has the nuclear weapons but plans and says, pledges, absolutely we will not be using these. That is on our honor as Americans. We will not destroy entire communities, cities, people, especially off petty reasons, to see what it does, to bully people, to manipulate human life above all else, Mother Earth above all else. We will not nuke. Absolutely. Unilaterally disarm to a minimum credible deterrent. This one's huge. Americans have been trained to just be so scared if we don't keep handing our military weapons. Let me assure you, if we stopped producing weapons today, we'd probably be ahead of people for not just decades, like half a century at least. We could still fight people. What do you think happens to all these bombs and tanks and vehicles and rockets and what have you that we just keep building and building for weaponization? Some of it gets sold or given to insurgent groups around the world. We'll later condemn them, but often they got the weapons from us or from somebody who got the weapons from us. So just a good, huge majority of these weapons that are found around the world and that are used by people to, create different, sometimes it's revolution, sometimes it's just devastation against civilians. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can be either or. It can be people fighting for freedom. It can be assholes fighting to subdue people, but often it's our weaponry, and it's because we have such an excess. We have an excess to where we can give it away, we can sell it for cheap, we hand it off to the police force. It's just incredibly excessive. We're so scared of Russia, but meanwhile we pay 15 times what Russia does to our own military. We're scared of what? There's just no reason. And a lot of the reason why other places are building nukes, weapons, etc. is because they think they can't trust us. We used to have a deal with the UK where they understood that if they needed nukes dropped, they could turn to us, their allies, the USA. Ever since Trump got in president, they don't believe that no more. They don't believe that no more. They are like, we need to build our own nukes because we can't trust this idiot who loves everybody he's not supposed to love, is ignoring every treaty that was ever signed, everything that ever happened, for his own bank account, for his own ego, for his own personal needs. So we're at this place where everybody can't trust America, and America needs to step up and show that we're willing to do what it takes to create a planet that everyone can live on. If we destroy it, we can't live here. So I agree with that part. Disarming, not paying into the military as much, cutting our budget down, because we already so overpaid, so bloatedly overpaid, that there's just so much material that just simply doesn't get used. It just gets parked out on airways, parked out in storage, then shipped off once it's obsolete, so we can make maybe a little of this wasted money back. It's gross. It's disgusting. It's unreal, and it's not necessary. It's a waste of money, but somehow there's not enough money to make sure actual Americans all get education and housing. Like, come out of here. We got to pay for that, but we also got to pay for us to have enough weapons to blow up every planet in the solar system for no fucking reason. He also goes on to say, a treaty that prohibits nuclear weapons, end the endless wars, get troops home. I absolutely agree. I can't even imagine what other countries feel having our army bases at their homes. He also mentions cutting the military budget by 75%, agreed. Invest in the savings in global Green New Deal, agreed. And finally, diplomacy and international law to promote peace, human rights, and democracy. Absolutely. Next, we have the Economic Bill of Rights. Let's see. He has the job guarantee, guaranteed minimum income above poverty, the $20 minimum wage. Absolutely. We need to start setting the standard. And it's like all these like fears, like, oh, then people won't be able to afford. If everybody's doing it, it's not just like only small businesses have to pay $20 an hour. No, everybody has to pay $20 an hour. This will absolutely help people in smaller states, and it will actually give a fighting chance to people in states like here in California and in New York, where rent is just up the ass and you can't pay for jack shit. But that also needs to be addressed, this fucking housing. But that's what he says next, is the affordable housing for all. Absolutely, I agree. There should be affordable housing available for all of us. And then if we want better housing, more extravagant, lush housing, then we should be able to go to whatever private mansion owner and rent a mansion. I don't think that you shouldn't be able to have an extravagant house and we should all just be living in whatever housing, whatever our income. But I do think that there should be minimum housing that even the most poor working American can afford. And there should be affordable housing because people with kids get discriminated against, singles get discriminated against, couples who aren't married get discriminated against. There's so many, your credit gets you discriminated. There are so many random psycho factors that keep people from basic housing, and people will act like their closet is you're living in a fucking crazy castle. You're not. It's their fucking back-ass bullshit that they're just trying to milk you of whatever money because they owe money on this property. These people, like landlords, will often play you for the fool, but at the end of the day, they often overcharge. And there needs to be an affordable housing option that offsets this psycho overcharging. Like, y'all, here in the Bay Area, you'll see things like it's $1,000 to live in my closet, but you don't get bathroom privileges, and you need to have light kitchen, which means use the microwave. And if I see you using the stove, or if I smell something that smells like you cooked something, like you used a pot and cooked something, you are grounds to be evicted for using the kitchen. People will rent to you for over $400 to not use their kitchen because they don't like it, or they don't think, or you don't get guests, or if you have kids, it will overrun, even if they're in diapers, it may overrun the septic system. They have excuses. If you had an alternative, they wouldn't have all those excuses for you to not have housing. So Medicare for all, a community controlled national health service, absolutely. We should all have health care. Give us just random dentistry. If people could just go to the doctor when they felt sick. If we could just go to the goddamn doctor. Like, people act like we want the world. No, I just want to be able to go get my cavity filled before it's at the point where I gotta get fucking pulled out of my head because it hurts so much, and that's the only extent with which I can get like a discount or my insurance covers it, what have you. Like, please. Lifelong free public education, pre-K through college. Yes, there should be public opportunity for all. The idea that we should all just, like, they stop us from voting. People get mad because there's undereducated voters, yet there's never any money to education. No one bats an eye when it's defund education, but they, like, get so scared when it's defund the police, even though, 70% of rape cases don't get solved, and over 50% of murders don't get solved by the police, but be so scared because the police may not be there to probably not solve your rape case. Oh dear. So he talks also about secure retirement. Absolutely. Stop abandoning the old people. Stop abandoning the old damn people. All right, so next. Worker cooperatives, public ownership of big banks and industries, public monetary authority, democratic economic planning, production for use within ecological limits. Absolutely. I very much am with all of those things. Let's see. We have next, criminal and civil justice, monitor and persecute white racist terrorists. Oh my gosh, the fact that Antifa is considered a terrorist group by our president before all these white nationalist terrorist groups, the fact that these people can be on forums online making plans together, show up to schools, churches, events, and shoot people, run their car, that's actually happened. I think they said 30 plus times since George Floyd's murder, someone has tried to drive a car into protesters, and they're trying to act like that's a legitimate form of protest. They're mad if you burn a police department, but if you drive a car into human beings to try and kill them, that's not violence. That's just free fucking speech. It's fucking psycho. It's psycho. It's disgusting. Somebody put the KKK on the terrorist group, put the alt-right neo-Nazis on the terrorist group and persecute them the same way they went all in on the Black Panther Party, infiltrated them just for open carrying and like brought them down from within. Please do put that same energy into people who actually lynched people and have a death count, unlike Antifa, the Black Panther Party, all these other people who don't have a death count at all. It's just wild. Okay. What else is in criminal civil justice? We have investigations, federal investigations into local police misconduct. Yes, local police should not be looking into themselves. Community control of the police, absolutely. It should be defunded and split into several partitions. This form of the police works on criminals, like armed criminals. This form of the police works on like the homeless. Is it even the police even at that point? This form of it works on people with like mental health crisis. This one works, it's the homeless, it's the drug addicts, it's all the different things that the domestic violence, all the things that we keep sending cops to do. It should be split up, and further, we should be a part of it. We should be leading it. We should be in tune with it. We should be members of the force. We should be a part of it completely. And yes, community run, what the community wants. Thank you. It's always what the community wants until the community wants justice for poor people, isn't it? Ending mass incarcerations for drug abuse. Especially treating drug abuse as a health problem, not as a criminal problem. I could rant about that for days, but we'll just keep going. He also talks about legalizing marijuana. Important because a lot of people got locked up in there and some are still in jail. Meanwhile, white people are getting shows on Netflix and being featured on YouTube for being like the kings of marijuana, the queens of marijuana, the kings and queens of baking marijuana. Meanwhile, black folks all have an auntie or uncle who knew how to cook with marijuana back in the 70s, who smoked a spliff back in the 70s, who tried to hand off a dime bag to a friend and got 30 years, 20 years in jail, a totally different person when they came out, if they came out. It's nasty. Decriminalizing personal possession of hard drugs, so important. I think we can look to other countries that have decriminalized to get a full message. Please look that up if you don't know about that. Drug treatment on demand, absolutely. Please, why do rich people get to be on drugs and then just go to get treatment? And poor people get on drugs and they got to go to jail. It's nasty. We should all have opportunities to get better. And we should also be looking at why everybody wants to fucking self-medicate on this fucking, in this fucking country. Okay, also, decriminalizing sex work. I'm so glad he put this up. It is crazy to me how criminalized it is, and the criminalization directly leads to the sex trafficking everyone's so concerned about. It directly leads to abuse. It directly leads to people being criminalized basically for being poor. It's sick, it's wrong, it's not necessary, and I absolutely think that sex workers should be treated as workers. I don't know why people always say it's a woman's thing. Nobody's stopping men from doing it. And in fact, men are often sex workers. So, yeah, I think that if it was legalized, they would have more autonomy. They would be able to call the cops. They would be able to say when somebody was doing some shady ass shit, they would be able to call the cops and be like, hey, I seen this fool with a bunch of underage girls. You need to go after them. It would open the road for us to be turning in people who were going after children and not just criminalizing random grown women trying to pay their rent, especially as we make less than men do. Drug treatment fight corporate crime. No need to add to that. And warrantless mass surveillance. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, what is the point? They're just keeping tabs on everybody just in case, you know, you do a crime, they can make you seem like a criminal. You get shot by the police, they'll make you seem like a bad person. You run for this office, that office, they have it all. They got files on you. It's wild. I mean, they did it to MLK. It's been happening for a long ass time, but now it's happening not just to public figures, but just people talking too much online. People who like certain forums, who hang out in certain forums. You don't even have to be a huge participant, and you can find yourself on lists. Yes. Pardon whistleblowers and political prisoners, a huge one. I do absolutely believe we need to be kinder to whistleblowers who are doing their patriotic duty, and other political prisoners. I don't think we should be in the lead for hurting political prisoners, be they domestic, international, what have you. We're getting to the end. Media democracy. Restoring net neutrality. Absolutely. It should be a right for all people. It's nasty the way they're trying to make it so that poor people can't have fast internet. Poor people have to pay extra for this or that. And then like you get discounts if you're richer type of thing. You get more benefit. It's gross. And it absolutely creates classism within the internet. It makes it so people are held back. When in fact our world, our landscape has been shaped as everybody gets access to the internet. So I think that these companies are making more than enough. There's already a monopoly on the internet, just like there's a monopoly on electricity. And I think that also needs to be rectified. But first and foremost, nipping it all in the bud, net neutrality, absolutely. Antitrust action against media conglomerates and social media platforms. Socialize social media and e-commerce monopolies. So he's definitely going after these big own everything situations, which is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these monopolies. I'm talking about if you watch this channel, this channel, this channel, this channel, you watch 7 different channels, there's a huge probability that they're all owned by the same person or owned by the same 2 people. Lucky if it's 2 different people. If you do the internet, it's all by this person. And if you even go for independent, often the independent will be reliant on them because it's very difficult to be independent and not be reliant on the people who own all the wires, for the people who have created a monopoly for years and years and years. And the further it goes along, the further it's impossible for another small business help take over. They can't do it. What they need is for the government to break something up, which they used to do. I don't believe they've really done it since the 70s or 80s, but they used to do it because it was their job to make sure there weren't monopolies, huge conglomerates, shaping the system to their own weird will that has nothing to do with the betterment of humanity or their customers, and more to do with just profits while the profits are hot. Who cares if the whole planet goes to hell? Funding community-based public media is so important, I think. Diversifying private media is so important. Getting more ideas out there. It's wild to me that people don't understand the true blackout that they receive from receiving certain media all the time, because they're all giving a certain rhetoric, because they're owned by a certain person who has certain beliefs. If that's how it's going to be, there needs to be a lot more opportunity for more people to have their own networks, to have their own news channels. The internet gives opportunity for that, but sadly we do still have huge portions of the population who rely on cable news and networks, and therefore it's going to still require us to reach out to them and make sure that they're not just being manipulated by conglomerates, by billionaires who happen to buy that newspaper, network, etc. Finally, last one. Oh my God, an hour-long video. I've never done this before on this channel, I don't think. Tax justice. My mouth is dry. Holy shit. End Social Security tax cap on high incomes. Pay into Social Security. It ain't hard. Just pay into it, you assholes. And fossil fuel subsidies. Why are they getting tax breaks? They literally, when the pandemic hit, fossil fuels were worth negative like 1 cent a gallon, but still they get subsidies, they get offers. Oh, go drill here, do here, ruin this, ruin that. Meanwhile, then a few years later, oh, the Dakota Access Pipeline actually did hurt everything, and you actually didn't do what you were supposed to do it, so actually you can't do it. But they can't do it after they already dug into the earth, ruined plants, disrupted the ecosystem, disrupted what was happening. But that's democracy, because it takes 4 years. God damn it, it's disgusting. Can we just let these obsolete companies go? You had your chance to make money and put it into savings. Did you blow it, or did you save your money? Because your business is over. Your time is over. What you offer, fossil fuels, are over. That's how it should be. Cut corporate welfare. Oh my God. They're always like, if your business fails, it fails. That's capitalism. Meanwhile, when mega rich corporations fail, they're like, we're too big to fail. You have to bail us out. No, bitch, you failed. You failed. Guess there's no more flights from whatever your flight service is. Guess there's no more items to these, mega superstores you have. Guess there's no more of your bank, and you need to answer for it, because the reality is the customer isn't actually who suffers. The employees actually aren't who suffers. It's the people who own that shit, the people at the top positions who would actually suffer. And that's who we're paying out every time. It doesn't matter if all these people are jobless. They will actually find jobs. It's not one business, one corporation being shut down doesn't mean everyone's homeless forever. The corporation shutting down means people get the payouts from the bank, and they also get the unemployment, and then they get to find a new job with the skills that they have. It's not the most ideal, but it is what it is. That's capitalism, right? When you fail, you're over. For whatever reason, they get welfare instead, but then we get chastised if we get welfare because we have hungry ass kids in front of our faces. How dare you? You should have kept your legs closed. I don't care if you're married, you're grown as hell, you used protection and it didn't work, you were raped. Who cares? You shouldn't have had sex. That's why you have kids you can't afford. Fuck you. But if you have an abortion, fuck you also. Can't win. I said it at the beginning. You can't win with these people. Financial transactions tax, progressive wealth tax, progressive estate tax. Thank you. It's like landlords would be like, I'm just a poor little landlord. If you are a poor little landlord, you'll do fine under this system. But if you're somebody who owns a mega rich $1 million worth, hundreds of thousands dollar worth place and you really think you earned it yourself, you really think no one was undermined at the company you worked for. No one was underpaid or overworked. No one was overlooked and, fired before they got the adequate pay they deserved or had an idea stolen. No one. No, it was just so perfect. It was angelic. I earned all this money by myself. You're bullshit. You're full of bullshit. You deserve to be taxed for your bullshit ass house that you overpaid for because you live in a certain community without people of color. Fuck you. Yes, you should be taxed and the rest of us should benefit it because your land isn't worth that much just because y'all say it is, just because y'all like to live in the same area, and it goes down because some of us who are born looking a certain way happen to move here. Fuck you guys. I'm not falling for the okie doke. I'm not falling for, oh, I worked for it so I earned it so I get to tear up the redwood mountains here in California to build my dream house. Fuck you. Fuck the plane you flew in on. My Lambo is blue. What is it? My president is black and my Lambo is blue. And if I catch you on the streets, I'm punching your puck ass. Okay, so more progressive personal and business income taxes and a land value tax. That is the end. Oh, hit my detergent here on the floor. So yeah, that's the end. I think it really summarizes that Howie's here for the people. He's here for the planet. If you're here for the people and you're here for the planet, especially if you're somebody who doesn't usually vote because you don't legitimize this stuff, honey, at this point, it doesn't matter if we legitimize it. Somebody has to start voting for these third parties. Somebody has to start voting for Mother Earth. Somebody has to start putting in the effort for all of this. Is that person you? That is what I wonder. Can that person be you? Do you have the principles and the character? Do you have the nerve? Do you have it within yourself to speak out and at least cast your vote? You don't have to tell other people. Forget your family. They're stupid anyways, okay? Forget your neighbors. They're probably crazy, and they'll probably try and, plot against you if they hear you're voting green, honey. But I'll be out here for us. I'll take those psycho comments here on my diary that I'll have to read before I delete. I'll do it. I'll do it just to talk to you and hope that you also vote green. We need 5%, and I think it's 15% if we want funding, but 5% keeps it all legitimate. And here's hoping. Here's hoping. I know, compared to Bernie, Howie doesn't seem as exciting. We don't know him as well, but at the end of the day, y'all, he's like Bernie, but with bite. He has all of Bernie's beliefs, and he is not afraid to call nobody out. He is not afraid to not be nobody's friend. Like, people complain he seems like a kind of boring, grumpy grandpa. That is exactly why I think he'll do well against other people, because he's willing to be the grumpy grandpa, not fall for the okie doke and just go on with what he absolutely knows is right because of his life experience. I wasn't really able to get into Angela Walker as much as I wanted to. I'm going to try and make another video for Angela another day so that we can just discuss her and come to know Howie and Angela. Maybe I'll make a video on Howie too, just so we can start to know them better. But I did want to go through what they believed, because that's more important than knowing who they are, what they've been doing, blah, 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 is really what they stand for. And they don't give wishy-washy or stuff that you could even question like Obama did, right? Sometimes Bernie even, he did all the stuff, but sometimes his actions are more questionable. In this case, these people are all in. They have nothing to lose. They are willing. They are fighting, and they're doing it for the planet and for the people. And that is what we need. At the end of the day, a lot of the other stuff doesn't matter. To be honest, in my opinion, the police departments don't matter. Burn them all down. What we really need is to come together as a country and stop doing the weird, partisan bullshit. This weird thing where human beings who can't eat are left to listen to you arguing about TikTok and whether we should ban it because of intellectual property. Meanwhile, literally, people have children asking for food. They literally are trying to talk down their landlords because they can't afford rent. But our government just gives two fucks about normal people. They give two fucks about the planet. They give two fucks about what the hell is going on for the average person's life. I said that with Kanye too. His ideas of what the average person wants to come home and have a warm place to go and know that their lifestyle isn't killing everything. In fact, they're just part of humanity. They're just here with their kids. They're just a part of this, helping it all go forward for the next generations, whatever that is, satisfied with the people they love and the places they are at. And that's really what I want us to remember, is that's what we're fighting for in the Green Party. It's not about, oh, just hate this person, love this person, who cares if they did this or that, do this no matter what, do that. If you don't do this, you don't do that, you're an idiot, you're this tard. Ugh, I'm so tired of that, the word tard being thrown around so much. Like, I understand people wanting to call people dumb, but I'm like, the one word people who are disabled asked us to stop using is the R word. So why are we still doing it just to describe Trump? But you're also degrading people who don't have full rights in America. So it's sad. So anyways, there's a lot going on there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have made it to this end, use a trooper, honey. I salute you. Damn, thank you. And if not, there's most people don't make it like 2 minutes into videos like this, but we're here at an hour. So at any rate, thank you, my fellow patriot, or just somebody who likes to hang out with me. That's cool too. I love you too. And either way, may your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads, and we'll keep talking about the Green Party later in the upcoming days and weeks.